He's the CEO, doctor. Got to remember the doctor. Dr. David Levitt is the CEO and co-founder of Pantomime Corporation, an alumni of Yale and MIT, a degree in artificial intelligence and computer science. Man, everyone could pick your brain for hours just based on that alone. Has co-founded several software firms. I was on the team for VPL Research, which invented virtual reality. Just that little thing. Just that little thing. Many questions, and so many other things that David has done. But I'll leave it as also known to Rocket Keyboard. Heard it? Please kick us off. Thanks so much, David.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm creating physically realistic worlds using LiDAR in the last 2 years worth of Apple iPad Pro and iPhone Pro models that support LiDAR, and it's a unique capability. It's really magic, and I'll try to breeze through the text slides quickly and show you as much video as I can. And you can actually try it yourself if you have one of those Pro devices and that Reality Faucet app. So there'll be short videos. I'm introduced. I'll explain LiDAR, and we'll do. That's quick. Here's a couple of short videos just summarizing what we've been doing. I think if I hit play again, you might see it. Reality Faucet on today's iPhone and iPad Pros brings realistic physics to augmented reality and lets you play in it. Roll balls, stack boxes, spray bubbles. Virtual objects disappear behind real ones, cradling every contour and crevice. Build things, knock them down. Friction, collision, lighting, sound, all stunningly real. Seamless animated magic happening live all around you. And it's just the beginning. Reality Faucet at the App Store. So that's from when we launched Reality Faucet 2 this summer. Let me play one other short video that no one has seen of the DART feature that's in beta. There are various objects that you can get in the app are in-app purchases, although often they're free. Today, in celebrating AWE, they're all free. Good day to get it and all the IAPs. The way the darts land is just a celebration of LiDAR. You can walk right up to it and see the tip. Oh, and the physics of when they don't land properly. Only one didn't land. It's fun. It's just magic. Oh, here's an idea. So there's all these possibilities for games and experiences that involve real things mixed with augmented things. And sometimes, you ever have plastic darts where one of them sticks into the back? Oh, I love that. Where one of them sticks into the back of another? That happens here too. It's that real. Okay, then we don't do that already. I guess the only thing that's worth adding here is that when I joined VPL, it was a pretty exciting team to join. I mean, a friend of Jaron Lanier needed my help, and I was like, wow, wait a minute, there's no physics of any kind? There's no gravity, collisions, you can't throw things? So I wound up adding gravity and physics and 3D sound to the first commercial virtual reality system. And it's just funny that things are repeating themselves, only now instead of a $250,000 system that only Matt Suchna could afford, it's in everyone's pocket or in the more expensive iPhones. Well, I'm sure there's 10 million people who don't know they've got an AR engine that powerful in their pocket. They thought they were just spending on a better camera. Founded Pantomime in 2014 and have several apps that that use both the Macs and iPhones and iPads in the same world. So what's LiDAR? Light detection and ranging. No one quite knows that, but that's what it means. So the device sends structured light out. You can't see it, IR, and it measures returning reflections. So light travels at 15 feet per nanosecond, no, 1 foot per nanosecond. So if it bounces back from, and it takes 30 nanoseconds, you know that that point is 15 feet away. You see how that works? So you can accurately measure distance if you have sub-nanosecond digital technology, and that's what we've got. It's much more accurate than the optical method of SLAM that's used in devices that don't have LiDAR, that really get faked out. If you have a white wall with no blemishes, they think it's not there. LiDAR doesn't make those kinds of errors. And it's been used for decades in, when they make maps, relief maps on a big scale, and Lenovo and Tango have tried to use it, but it wasn't affordable and their products failed. Apple made a big commitment 2 years ago, or actually the public got to see it 2 years ago with the 2020 iPad Pro, and now it's on every Pro device from Apple. And the range now is 5 meters, about 16 feet, starts 6 or 8 inches in front of the device. And it basically turns every surface in the area into triangles, maybe an inch on a side. And that supports really accurate occlusion for great magical illusion of what's near and what's far. And it enables realistic physical collisions of various kinds that we've engineered at Pantomime. And it's just, it's key to really flawless magic. Here's a slower paced video that hopefully conveys something not only about the LiDAR, but about the nice environment mapping in the app.
Here we are in a Santa Clara hotel room exploring our space with Reality Faucet. It has a simple widescreen interface with many of its elements translucent.
Look at the shiny faucet, that's the room.
Lets you flow an object to the end of the faucet. Tap it again, and you drop it in place, or place it where you want it.
Note the shadows.
And it behaves as if it was physically real. Note the way objects float down the faucet, and you can see it. Or I can hit the blue button and throw it.
So pretty simple interface.
Hold it and then toss it.
Purple is load, blue is fire.
At the top, we can pick other objects. Let me pick bubbles for a second. Here's a nice big bubble. It shows us that we've really got an amazing model of a room. This room? Yes. Is that the bed? Reality Faucet gradually makes an increasingly detailed model of the room you're in and updates your view of it 60 times a second to make this incredibly realistic feeling.
So there'll be, let's see, so, oh yeah, here's a little closer work.
I can drop a domino and that works there. Notice if I pass something through a real object.
So these are the edge cases for
eventually
physics.
It will disappear. If I drop that, it'll just go right through. If I drop it and it's mostly out, it's passed through the object a little bit. It's gonna be bad. It's gonna jump. It's physically impossible for it to be halfway in, and it's going to object when it tries to do the physical simulation. Otherwise, dominoes are going to behave like dominoes behave. If I adjust this just right, and carefully place this with the dripper, that's good. And if I get the height and everything just right, then I can get the confidence to just fire, 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 fire. Is that going to work? And of course, now, to make it easier to place things, the faucet itself is not physically active, right? It does not push over dominoes. But anything the faucet is holding, like another domino,
So this is the base of how you use
is
tools.
physically active.
Our patent actually involves handling tools attached, a granted patent, handling tools attached to a device. Just a few years ago, there was no model of the device you were holding. In fact, very few systems support that yet. Okay, so when you're building an app like this, if you're using Apple's tools, you start with Reality Composer sometimes, and they've got some nice models that, but I think of them as Potemkin villages, if you know that term, things that look good but don't work. The classic is you've got pool, cue, balls, and triangular rack, right? So you're building your world, you put a bunch of balls inside the rack, and you say they're dynamic, and then you turn on physics, and all the balls jump up above the rack and stay perfectly still and won't go inside it, because basic Reality Composer and your basic physics simulations only believe in convex objects, and it just sees that as a convex triangular prism, and the physics is exactly wrong. You have to craft the real the real physical object. But anyway, so you're building things with reality with the Reality Composer. You can import Pixar format USDZ files, but you wind up crafting nice. You'll see a basketball hoop in a moment. So things go into the basket realistically instead of bouncing off of it. Okay, and in addition, spatial collision sounds are key to making this realistic magic. You know, there's really good, I've been doing 3D sound since VPL. Boy, is it good. When, you know, it's all about the shape of your ear, and when stuff is behind you, it sounds completely different and screams exactly where it is. So it's not all graphics. The environment maps, you saw that. It's picking up the room and putting the bed. Every shiny object in those scenes is getting not only the lighting of that, but you know, the model, the shadows. That's a lot of that is handled automatically, and there's also ground shadows underneath objects, and that's key for things to look like they're really in the scene. You'll see some features like that in this, a draft of our new basketball hoop item. Okay, so look at the morning sun casting shadows when I throw it a little higher. Oh, I scored. You can see the leaderboard appears when you drag. Oh, how about that? So it just is. I put up the hoop outside my deck next to a lovely Japanese maple, and I'm scoring. If you look at the time difference between the bottom where I'm scoring and the Game Center leaderboard that I'm on the top of, in a moment you'll see me with one of my beta testers playing together, but there's no real delay. It's a fraction, I'm not getting that many baskets, but it's a fraction of a second, and you see some of those shadows. It's a fraction of a second delay, which means, well, everyone in the world who wants to be competing with me gets that. They could be in Japan or India, where a lot of our customers are, and they could be playing together when this comes out. So there's a lot of applications of physically realistic games. Construction kits are among our favorites. Puzzle games. Cut the Rope is a great physical realistic 2D game. It belongs in Pantomime physics. Scavenger hunts, where the size of the piece that you're needing to complete the puzzle is actually the shape of an object in your house. That's kind of fun, right? Things that really let you embrace the environment that you're really in. But also, the physics is realistic enough that if you try, you know, in some cases I do things exaggerated, but if you really are doing accurate physics, it becomes a way to do mechanical engineering, testing, design, prototyping, and you know, will it fall over? Will it be stable? Will interacting with it work? there's a great potential there. And of course, there's also great potential for magic. I think of, the great character animators at Disney and Pixar and Looney Tunes. Everyone who sees how great the physics is says, and I mentioned Wile E. Coyote, and they say, oh, absolutely. Are you going to make a hole that you can throw on the ground or put up on a wall? And yeah, that's exactly the kind of stuff we'd hope to be doing. I mean, I've dreamed of doing that kind of thing with Warner Brothers, and it's possible now. And also, of course, you can imply, people are attracted and engaged when they see that kind of magic. So in marketing and all the areas that have been the bread and butter for augmented reality, realistic physics, I think, has a special place, and it's going to be growing radically as these devices become more common, and this magic becomes more part of the world lexicon. Here's a silly game I made up out of nowhere, sort of accidentally. I call it Pachinko Jenga. Now, when you can place things accurately, so there's 6 darts the way this is set up. And every time I put out the 7th or 8th dart, it pulls one out. And so the goal is to make the plank walk down the wall without a catastrophe. And maybe in version 2, I mean, in level 2 of the game, maybe in level 2 of the game, there'll be boxes on the ends of the plank that mustn't fall off, and maybe in level 3 there'll be a ball in between them, or maybe there'll be a time limit. But it's just it's a lot like playing in the real physical world. It's like the contraption you might have built as a kid. I sure did, except at the end, Mom is never going to make you clean it up. Okay. So here's hopefully a treat. We're beta testing the new basketball hoop, and one of the beta testers is already on the leaderboard. And unfortunately, I didn't have the mic on when we recorded this historic test, but it's set up so that you can hear when he scores. You see this, he's got 17 baskets already now. And now I'm going to try and compete with him and beat him on the leaderboard. Now, of course, it's easy to just dump these things in the basket. We're thinking we can give people 1 point for that kind of a basket, or 10 points if they ricochet off of a real world into the augmented reality basket, into a real wall, into the. Here I'm catching up on him. I really wish you could hear our screams of delight and competition, the frenzy. I'm at the top. Doc Levitt is the winner. So, there's many next steps. We'll be coming out with that basketball, really worldwide game later in November. There are really much more interesting tools we can attach to your device. Scoops, all the things that grips, the Jenga, et cetera, type opportunities. We need a few special tools for that, but obviously other apps would do well there. Interesting, persistence, things so you come back into the room and stuff is the way you left it. Undo is a challenge. Or delete or rewind. What if you delete something that's supporting another object? What if the real room has changed when you tried to undo? Can you rewind somehow? Interesting research questions. But mostly, Pantomime wants to help developers deliver great physics. We had a great meeting with Amanda Witt at Lightship yesterday, and we're looking forward to working with those opportunities. And you can download it from the App Store now if you have one of those pros. Again, all the in-app purchases are free today, so this is a perfect time to install it on one of your devices and get them all. And there's time for a minute or two of questions.
Yeah, please. Huge applause. Huge. I'm coming.
Thank you. Great presentation. Very cool stuff.
Thank you.
So I have a question. You talked about the pros of LiDAR. Can you talk a little bit about some of the deficiencies that you hope some other scheme or LiDAR in the next generation might correct?
Well, obviously, the main deficiency now is that not every mobile device has it, and Apple has sort of a de facto exclusive on it. There are a few depth sensors. You know, basically, Androids don't have depth sensors or stereo or LiDAR yet. You know, mirrors are funny. Sometimes they work. Sometimes sometimes you throw things right through them. Glass and mirrors are, you know, there are always challenges for augmented reality. But I've been rather pleased. If things are closer than 6 inches, you're unlikely to be able to resolve them. But also, if you're holding them, they're filling your screen and spoiling the experience anyway. So our faucet is about 8 inches out from the device. I'm not suffering any terrible limitations of LiDAR yet. It's just magic. Yes?
Thank you for the presentation. That does look like magic, especially the bubble where you see the scene. That's my
sweet.
God. Can you maybe give some intuition as to why LiDAR is only available on some models, even amongst Apple's most current models, it's only some that's supported? And if you see that changing in the future, is there...
Well, yeah, you know, I can't get into Tim Cook's brain exactly, but I think that's the direction that it's heading. You know, every time they do something really great, someone says, "Ooh, do it, make it just a little better, and it'll accuse you of being a monopoly." So it's a challenge. But right now it's a funny thing where, right now it's a stealth thing. You know, everybody knows whether or not they've bought a headset. But there's probably 20 million people who thought they were spending an extra $100, or maybe, wow, I can get the best iPhone because my phone carrier says I can afford it now. And 20 million people have a gigantic AR, VR engine in their pocket and literally don't even know it. It's the opposite of knowing you bought a headset. They're going to discover this app or one like it and be transformed into magical worlds before they're ready. And hopefully it will be on all iPhones 5 years from now, and all tablets, or certainly all Apple tablets. But you know, it's a reasonable question. One of the reasons we're doing a competitive game is so that the coterie of people who do have the hardware that supports it can get to know each other, rather than hunt down the person who has the right device in their direct circle. They'll be playing with strangers who are in the elite that they're in. Yes.
Actually, thanks for answering the mirror question. That was one of the ones that I wanted to ask as well. But with LiDAR, are you able to get any surface properties like the softness or the hardness of the surface? Like obviously mirrors are a problem, but are you able to get like any with the variation in time of flight of the signal to like, oh, it's a soft bed, so that you can make the physics react differently? Thanks.
Great question. It's not obvious, but I believe you can, and I think you even saw that with, sometimes the darts won't land right, and I think it's because the ickiness of the surface, the irregularness of the surface is reflected. So I think, I may have to recognize that so it doesn't make a wooden plank sound when the dart hits it, but yes, I think that's one of the challenges going forward, is to deduce materials, and it's a little bit like what Lightship is doing with classifying. Oh, that's sky, that's ground, that's artificial ground. We'll be doing things like that and making more realistic scenes. There's someone.
Oh, sorry.
Hello, thank you for the great talk. I was wondering if you were planning to release an API for that so that we can develop off of it.
Contact me.
Okay.
We seem to be doing things that aren't extremely well documented by Apple that no one else has done. So I think if there's an AI, I think there is a market for an API.
We can sneak in one more question if there is one. I'll sneak it in then. That's my chance. That's my chance. You've kind of seen the beginning stages of this technology in VR. Where do you think in, say, 10, maybe 15 years, this is all going to go? Oh, no.
I didn't know there was water here. It fell on my foot. So in 10 years, LiDAR will be pretty common, and either we'll all be the Apple Elite or it will be on some popular Android. People will just be in magical worlds. Persistence will be commonplace. So if I leave something, or I leave a note for someone, or I leave an object or a puzzle for someone, they'll be able to run over to it and fool around with it. And it will be, our lives will be a lot like Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Let's give David a round of applause.
Thank you.